Widowed rancher searched for milk for his newborn, until the neighbor girl knocked with a full breast and said, "Let me feed her." Dry Willow, Colorado, early spring, 1879. The snow had not yet melted from the shadowed corners of the hills, and the wind still cut like a knife through the broken fences and bare cottonwoods that lined the edge of Turner Ranch. Cold lingered in the bones of the earth, as if winter refused to leave. Inside the weather-beaten cabin, Jack Turner sat slouched beside the stone hearth, holding a wailing infant against his chest. His eyes were hollow, bloodshot. His shirt was stained with spilled milk and old sweat, his hands shaking as he tried again to coax his daughter to drink. "Come on, baby girl, please," he whispered. "Just a little more, please." The bottle trembled in his grip. Goat's milk warmed over the fire, splashed against the child's chin. Lily turned her head away, her mouth tight, her tiny fists thrashing. Her cries grew then desperate. Jack sighed, the sound of it more like a groan. His back slumped. He had not slept in days. Since Mary died, bleeding out before the midwife could even finish wiping the child clean. Jack had been holding it together by thread and bone. He buried his wife on a Tuesday. Lily turned 2 weeks old the same day. Now she was 2 months old and she was starving. He had tried everything. He fed her goat milk, rice water, even sugar water once, though he had regretted it when she cried harder. He had walked to every nearby homestead, knocking on doors like a beggar. "My girl needs milk," he had said. "Does anyone have a nursing wife?" Most turned him away gently. Some said nothing at all. One man grunted. "Wives dried up 2 winters ago. Try the goats." Another woman said, "That's what bottles are for, Mr. Turner. You'll figure it out." He did not. Now Lily was losing weight, her cheeks no longer full. Her skin looked too pale, her breath too fast. Jack stood slowly, rocking her in his arms as he walked to the door. The wind howled through the cracks in the frame. He opened it, reached out with one hand, and pinned a small piece of paper to the outside with a bent nail. The note read in uneven script, "If anyone has milk to spare, please help my baby girl." He closed the door. The wind banged against it again and again. Back at the hearth he sat with Lily in his lap, trying to hum to her. His voice was cracked, dry. The bottle lay on the floor, rolling gently. Lily's cries had weakened, shifting into small gasps between hiccups. Her face was flushed, wet with tears. She curled in against him, fists still clenched. Jack pressed his lips to her forehead. His hands were rough, cracked from working with leather and fence wire, but they trembled now as if holding a piece of glass. "I am trying," he whispered. "I swear I am trying." The fire popped. His shadow wavered on the wall behind him. He leaned back against the post, eyes closing for a moment too long. But Lily whimpered, and he jerked upright, arms tightening around her. He had never known fear like this. Not when wild horses broke loose, not when storms tore his barn roof off, not even when he stood beside Mary's grave with dirt caked under his nails and a hole in his chest where hope used to be. His daughter was all he had left, a heartbeat that depended on his own. And tonight even his strongest hands felt useless. He once tamed stallions with one hand. Tonight he trembled, just trying to hold a bottle. The wind had picked up again. Rain slashed sideways against the cabin's windows, each gust rattling the loose panes like bones shaking in their sockets. Jack paced the wooden floor. Lily pressed against his shoulder, her cries now reduced to pitiful whimpers, thin, exhausted gasps from a baby who no longer had the strength to scream. The fire was dying. He had fed it everything. Pine scraps of old furniture, even Mary's rocking chair last week. Still the room felt cold. Then came the knock, 3 sharp raps just above the howling of wind. Jack froze. For a moment he thought he imagined it, but then it came again, firmer this time. Not the wind, a person. He opened the door. A woman stood beneath the porch beam, soaked through, her shawl dripping, her boots sunk in mud, blonde hair plastered to her cheeks. She held a canvas satchel in one hand, the other clutching her coat closed at the neck. Jack blinked. Maggie." She looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed, swollen but steady. Her voice trembled. "I saw your note. I've heard her crying at night." She took a breath. "Let me feed her, please." Jack stared at her, not understanding for a second. His eyes dropped to the satchel, then back up to her pale face. "You mean I still have milk?" she said quietly. "My son passed 6 weeks ago. He was 11 weeks old." Rain streaked down her cheek, mingling with something else. I have to do something with it," she said, barely audible. "Let me help her." Jack stepped aside wordlessly. Maggie moved into the room slowly, as though unsure she would be allowed to stay. Inside, the warmth hit her, and she nearly staggered. She sat down her satchel, eyes immediately drawn to Lily. The infant was trembling, her cries now no more than rasping little breaths. Maggie's arms reached out instinctively. "May I?" she whispered. Jack hesitated only a second, then handed over the baby. Maggie sat on the old rocker by the hearth, cradled Lily in the crook of her arm, and unbuttoned the top of her dress. Jack turned quickly, facing the window. He stared into the dark. Behind him a soft sound, suckling, wet, desperate, rhythmic, then a deep exhale from the baby and silence. Jack's eyes closed. Maggie looked down at the small face nestled against her chest. Milk dribbled from the corner of Lily's mouth, and for the first time since her son died, Maggie felt the ache in her chest ease. Not the physical kind. "She's hungry," she whispered. "Poor thing." Jack turned his head slightly but did not look. "She hasn't eaten in almost a day." More silence. Then Maggie asked softly, "What was her name?" "Lee," he said, still staring at the rain. "Mary named her." The firelight flickered across the floor. The cabin was quiet now, save for the soft, contented breaths of the nursing baby. Jack's hands were bundled into fists at his sides, not out of anger, but something closer to grief, relief, helplessness. "She looks strong," Maggie murmured like her father. Jack swallowed. His voice, when it came, was hushed. "Thank you." Maggie looked up at him, her lips quivering. "I needed this too," she said, "more than you know." By the third morning, Maggie had moved her things into the small room off the side of the house. The old tack room, once used to store saddles and rope, now cleared of dust and fitted with a cot. Jack had dragged in himself. He had even mended the broken latch on the window. She woke early before the rooster crowed, quietly boiling water with dried willow bark and chamomile. She placed the tin cup beside Jack without a word, then gently lifted Lily from her cradle and nursed her by the firelight. Lily was already brighter, her skin warmer, her cries softer, her small fingers curled around Maggie's shirt, her lips drawing steady, greedy breaths as she fed. Jack remained awkward around Maggie, uncertain how to show his gratitude. He spent most of his time working outside, fixing fences or hauling wood. But he started doing small things, leaving a bowl of warm stew for her at lunch, folding the extra blanket at the foot of her cot, replacing the squeaky hinges on the washroom door. He even repaired the broken leg on her rocking chair without saying a word. He rarely spoke first, but every night after Lily fed and slept. They sat near the hearth, Maggie with her knitting, Jack with a tin of coffee gone cold. Silence stretched between them, not heavy but present, shared. On the fifth night, Maggie broke it. "I held him for 2 days," she said, eyes on the flickering flame. "My boy Jack looked up. He died from fever. I didn't know what to do. He just stopped breathing, and I just sat there waiting for anyone." Her voice was even, but her fingers trembled around the yarn. "No one came," she said, "not until he started to smell." Jack didn't speak. He poured her another cup of coffee instead, and then, without a word, fed another log to the fire. The flames rose higher. Maggie gave him a small, grateful nod. She never had to ask for help with Lily. When she fed the baby, Jack always made himself scarce. He would quietly step outside or retreat to the barn, returning only to find Maggie rocking Lily with the look of peace that had not touched her in months. He never commented, but once she noticed he had placed a hot stone wrapped in cloth beside the rocking chair to warm her feet while she Saturday. She didn't say thank you. He didn't ask her to. Their conversations grew a little longer, a little deeper. She told him about her parents back east, how she had come to Colorado with her late husband, who died in a mining accident before their son was born. Jack listened, eyes always steady, nodding more than speaking. In return, Jack told her about Mary, how they had courted during harvest season, how she had once tamed a wild mustang better than any man he knew. She was soft-spoken, he said once, but when she told a horse to stop, it stopped. Maggie smiled faintly. Sounds like she was the strong one. She was, Jack agreed. Each night the silence between them began to feel less like absence and more like understanding. Neither reached for the other. But sometimes, when their eyes met in the orange glow of the fire, something unspoken passed between them. Gentle, cautious, but real. Not love, not yet, but something that looked like healing. And in that quiet corner of the world, amid creaking wood and winter winds, it was more than either had hoped to find again. The storm had rolled in fast, soaking the dirt road into thick mud. By the time Maggie returned from town, the market had been crowded that morning, spring finally stirring beneath the frost. But no warmth touched the eyes that followed her. She had gone for flour and soap,